How about now? Okay, that's good. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Let's get transitioned over. And there we go. All right, we're all set up. First of all, welcome to the stream, everybody. And thank you for the discussion before stream. It was really good. Um, I don't know. It's a good Sunday. Looking forward to the sunshine today. But we've got some code to write and some hot takes to get me to put up on YouTube, right? So um like he did recently. Matt Pocock is I read his stuff every once in a while. I really like just the way he talks about things, the way he thinks about things, and we tend to agree quite a bit. Um so yeah, his stance is probably a safe stance to take in the type versus interface argument. Um, I'll give you the same take that I've given a couple of times, right? Um, in the beginning, using types over interfaces used to be faster. And the reason for that is if you're familiar with languages that use like sealed classes or things like that, you can think of a type as kind of like um, a sealed class almost, and an interface being an open extensible class, right? And so early on in the TypeScript days, TypeScript didn't have all the optimizations that it could make for types, right? Because types could only ever be of the shape that they were declared as. And we can see that like right now, these two interfaces have the same shape, right? Um, However, if I come down here and I just go, hey, interface, my test interface, right? And I add a bool prop, right? And now it's a boolean. Well, notice that I've broken this interface, right? Because it's now telling me, hey, you don't have a boolean prop on this interface anymore. Um, yeah, exactly. And you can redefine an interface anywhere. This could be in another file. This could be, somebody wants to extend, like, this is commonly done. The reason that a window is an interface is interface window, right? Um, right. My, global var um, can exist on the window, right? And so window is extendable, right? So now if I just grab window dot my global var, we can see that my global var now exists on the window. And the reason that's the reason that window is an interface, right? Because people throw things on the window all the time, and that needs to be extensible, right? The reason that I tend to prefer types over interfaces, right, is if I try to extend my test type, it's immediately going to say, hey, you've already declared my test type, right? So what do I do? Well, I can do a couple of things, right? Like I can do my type 2 extends. Can I not do an extends on this? I cannot find name extends. Can I only extend an interface? Type my type 2 and implements? No. Extends? There's extends right there. I guess I can't extend it. Redefining an interface extends it instead of throwing it. You need to use ampersand. Oh yeah. Yeah. My test type, right? Nope, I can't do it. So to use to use to extend an interface, you have to use an ampersand, or you have to use one of the combiners, right? But you can't really change it. You could go interface test2 extends my test type, right? So interfaces allow you to extend types and things like that, and you can extend other interfaces. But what you can't do is extend a type or things like that. Ampersand, yeah, exactly. Um, the So this is why I tend to prefer types over interfaces. Um, I like to be explicit in my types. There are times when I do want to allow the user to extend my types, and in those instances, then I will declare them as an interface. But for like 80 to 90% of my use cases, I almost always go type, right? 80 to 90%, I almost always, doesn't 80 to 90% imply almost always? For 80 to 90% of my interfaces, I use types for type declarations. I don't tend to use interfaces too often, mainly because of this issue, right? Where somebody could extend it maybe by accident, right? The crazy thing here is that this extension may not be purposeful. Somebody may get like a name collision or something if I don't name my types well enough and they don't name their types well enough and we tend to collide. You know, if I interface temp, right? Boom. And somebody else later on goes, "Oh, I need a temp interface temp, right?" And boom. Now our two types have collided, and it's an entirely stupid reason why they've collided, right? Because I chose to name poorly, they chose to name poorly, and then the name that we chose to name it just happens to collide, and now we've got this type mess going on. So my suggestion to teams who are writing TypeScript code is only use interfaces when you want to allow consumers of that interface to extend your type. If you don't want type extension, then only use types. Yeah, type A equals name, type B equals B. Yeah, export type C equals type A. Yeah, that's how you do it exactly, Michael. Um, and yeah, Wiseman Z is already there on top of it too. Makes sense. I remember having a few issues in the previous because of interfaces. Then again, everything was an interface there. And like, I don't want to dissuade teams from using interfaces. There are a lot of teams that use interfaces. The reason that I think a lot of people use interfaces is they're coming from another strongly typed system like Java or like .NET or some of the other very very object oriented, very strongly typed systems, right? And in those systems, interface isn't extensible the way it is, right? You can't just redecline, and it's the other reason why var test equals ABC, right? And then later on in the code, somebody else collides, and they're just like, var test equals 123. It didn't used to catch this, but it's like a test has to be a string, but here we've declared it as a number. Oh, okay, sure. Now it's a number, right? Oh, it doesn't like that. Okay, then now test is an any, right? Okay, so TypeScript has gotten better about catching this. In the past, you could get around this kind of stuff, um, but there's a lot of just like gotchas like that, and the reason that it's not a failing of TypeScript, it's that TypeScript needs to conform to the language, and ECMAScript, right? JavaScript is very very how do we want to say it? It's loosely loosely typed, let's call it that, very loosely typed, and things can be almost anything, and they can change and they can mutate, and they right, like the typing system is not very strict in the ECMAScript standard. TypeScript needs a way to define, hey, we want our types to be very, very strict, but also they need a way to say, hey, we need kind of a looser type that can change on the fly. And so that's where interface and type came from. It's to allow TypeScript to mutate to meet the needs of people who are writing, JavaScript or ECMAScript or things like that. Um, and so, like, a lot of the bumpy or spiny parts of the language come about just because of the very dynamic nature of the language itself, right? Um, and there's a lot of people out there that are writing, they've written talks, right? Like JS WAT or NG WAT or any of those WAT talks, right? Where they go and they make JavaScript, or you guys have seen it, not a number does not equal not a number, just things like that. A lot of that comes down to just the specification. And people are like, well, why don't we just fix it? Well, the reason we don't just fix it is that it would break 60 to 70% of the web if we just fix things. So they have to be very intentional about the way they fix things. And a lot of that is coming down to kind of I would almost argue that it's almost a strangler pattern that's going on now, where they're taking kind of the bumpy, nasty parts of the language, and they're creating new parts that are less bumpy, less nasty, and saying, "Hey, use this," right? But the old stuff still exists. And what I'm hoping is that someday in the future they can be like, "Hey, this part of the language isn't used. Let's deprecate it." And then somewhere further on in the specification, um, that stuff goes away. There was some really cool stuff that made TC39 lately, recently. There was the using statement. So, if true inside of here, we can say using, is it, how does use, I think it's const using, is it right? Using temp equals my equals something. Or does using come before? I need to go look up the using spec. Variable using, so it might go before the const. Using temp, does that work? Okay, so wow, it adds a whole bunch of stuff because I think it just very recently became part of the specification. And so if we use the using variable right now, we're going to get a whole bunch of disposable resource and things like that, right? Using is a new part of the ECMAScript. It just reached stage 4, which means that browsers will start implementing it. So they're things like using, and using is really, really cool, because if temp has a finalizer on it, even if we do console.log 1 divide 0, well, that won't work, right? But even if we that's the crazy thing, right, about ECMAScript is 1 divide 0 doesn't throw. But if we just throw a new error, breaking things, then temp in some cases would not be cleaned up by this error throwing. Now that we've got the new using statement from ECMAScript, this will work. And maybe instead of me trying to show some stuff off, what we can do is go to MDN and go to the using statement. Oh, do they not have it yet? TC39 using. So you've got an example here where you've got a handle and you need it to release. And this G blocks the release on the handle. And the same with generators. Here you can use the using statement, and now it's block scoped. And so the cleanup will happen, right? So your finally blocks and things like that will happen. Before the using statement, that wasn't possible, right? So like if you needed to call release lock or things like that, or handle.close, here you've got kind of a resource contention, because A and B depend on each other and they're never going to close. And so you would have to like wrap in more try, catch, finally blocks, right? But with using, you can just say, hey, A equals this, B equals this, and then the using is just going to clean up the resources as soon as they're freed. Very, very powerful. Hey, Ole, welcome to the stream. But we're kind of off topic. You guys got me talking about a bunch of stuff, right? Today we're going to be looking at the import attribute and the iterator help. Those are both awesome also. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming to the ECMAScript standard, and there's some really cool stuff that Angular's been showing off that's coming to the next version of Angular. I don't know how I feel about the new template interpolation stuff. I'm a big proponent of moving logic out of templates, and I'm concerned that the new stuff is going to encourage people to put things into templates that we wouldn't want in templates, right? But I am very, very hyped about a lot of the new stuff coming out. So the new ECMAScript is going to be really cool, which means the new TypeScript is going to be really cool. The one that I'm really frustrated about is temporal is still, I think it's still at stage 3, or maybe it's stage 2. It's stage 2 or stage 3. We can look it up, right? TC39 temporal. So, and this is really bright. Let's turn it on. Okay. Does it tell us where we are? It doesn't. There's the TC39 proposal. This one doesn't tell us. Look here. Oh, temporal's at stage 4. No, stage 3. So temporal is at stage 3 right now, which means that the browsers aren't going to pick it up yet. It does mean once something hits stage 3, that's when Babel and TypeScript will pick it up. So maybe we'll start seeing temporal in our TypeScript code. Who knows? But this is the one that I've been waiting for years. I can't even remember how long it's been. It's stage 2 and stage 3. Super excited. This replaces a lot of the date FNS and all of those things like that. Are you going to remove prefixes for components? Also with prefixes, we can have different icons for services guard, but with new naming approach, this probably will not be available. Yeah, So, Brandon Roberts put up kind of a meme post, where Angular devs say, we aren't opposed to, we aren't opposed to changes in Angular, but then he posted a link to, the CLI change to add the ability to add dot component back and things like that. I responded, I'm on the fence about this one. Like, I understand why, but icons and things like that, it's a tough call. I'll admit that I'm not sure where I stand totally with it. Um, Already usable. The import attribute and iterator helpers. I really, that would be cool. We can take a look at, can I use, right? We can just look at like we can take a look at import options, right? Well, here we go. We've got, so the options parameter, it looks like they're in Chrome and Firefox. And they're fully supported. The import maps are fully supported for a while. Let's just go. Let's take a look at iterator. It's not picking up iterators. That's hilarious. Can I use iter? Okay, asterisk. No. Did I break something? Let's try refreshing. Iterator. There we go. So iterator map, iterator from, iterator drop, iterator find, iterator take. These are already there. Reduce, filter for each. I know which ones you're talking about. Oh, the temporal API. Oh, are you saying temporal's already in Firefox? Very cool. Actually, let's go back. Can I use, look at temporal? Dude, you are 100% correct there, Wiseman Z. Very, very cool. It's been in since 139. Chrome is not released at all. So Firefox is way ahead on this one. It's been ahead for a while. That's very cool. Like temporal is going to solve a whole bunch of stuff that we're using all sorts of different date time tools for. Very cool. So yeah. So Michael says, I wish the Angular JSON config option to retain the class suffix was separated from the file. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I'm ready to drop class suffixes for when selector list drops, but I like to search by dot component, etc. I agree with that. I don't think icons are worth going back to generic suffixes. I actually like the idea to leave file suffix but drop class suffix. It is implemented by only one developer. There are articles about it. That's very cool. I need to go read up on that some more. So I mean, there's going to be flame wars around it. My struggle, and we can see it even here, is that I'm creating like a heroes view model, right, and a heroes store and a heroes model. if I don't use the suffixes, I would tend to collide because I tend to name things after what they're for. So, like, my hero component is a component for my hero, right? But I may have like a hero that is displayed by the hero component. Um, and the point of the hero component is to display the hero. So maybe I would add something like display hero or something like that. But component communicates what it's for, and those are kind of the frustrations that I'm struggling with right now. Um, uppercase pipe is part of that. Here's why he can't resolve the uppercase. Okay. What is going on here? Yeah, .store.ts, exactly. Got something going on. Hey, is your alternate Johanderson's alternate? I hope so. That's awesome if it is. Um, but anyway, let's go take a look at the next piece, right? The in this, so they haven't upgraded Tour of Heroes since version 17. So we're going through the version 17 documents to build our Tour of Heroes application, right? What they want us to do is they want us to display a list of heroes and allow users to select a hero and display the hero's details. That's the next piece. To do that, we're going to create a list of heroes. So we're going to grab this list of heroes and we're going to add it to our application. I actually tend to add these to the type itself. So we can just export function, and here we can just say mock heroes. And I like to use factory functions over exporting just objects, because when somebody calls a factory function, the factory function gives an instance of that, and they can mutate that instance, but they can't mutate the global instance, if that makes sense. That's the big reason why I like global over, why I like factories over just exporting variables or things like that, and it's a personal preference, um total personal preference. But I have had instances where and the places where this tends to show up the quickest is you'll start seeing maybe you've got unit tests that only run in a certain order, or maybe you've got well, that's the quickest place where it tends to show up. But you might have users reporting that, hey, I've got this weird bug and you can't track it down. No matter what you do, you're struggling to track it down. That's where like collisions and mutations tend to show up. And so that's why I tend to prefer factory functions over just exposing an object. And it's a personal preference thing, right? If your team is dedicated and things like that, then it's okay. So I'm already making a change over what they're saying, right? They're exposing as a const heroes, but you know, let's take a look at this, right? Um, let's go to TypeScript Lang again. Let's go to the playground, and let's show. So let's take their code. Um, so let's go here, and let's just take this code. Let's just paste it in, right? And we're going to say type hero equals. A hero has to have an ID, it's a number, and it has to have a name that's a string. So here's our hero. But we can say, hey, you know what? Heroes. Let's say heroes2 dot ID equals 999, right? And now if we console.log heroes, and we go ahead and we run this, now we can take the export out, right? We can see that right here we were able to change this to 999. And that's the thing, right? Like, just declaring something const doesn't prevent you from mutating properties on the object. We can push to heroes. We can do all sorts of stuff to heroes. Right? We could potentially take this to as const. But still, it's going to allow us to do that. So really, I don't even know if read only is going to do it. Read only hero. Yeah, see, it's still not complaining about. Do we have to go read only on the hero itself? Yeah, so now we have to go read only, and I think we could go here and it would still catch it, right? And now it's going to say, hey, you can't change a read only object. But if we don't add the other read only, we can still do a heroes.push, you know, 1234 or ID 1234 or 132, name, JSON, right? And right, so we can no longer change the heroes, but we can still mutate the array by adding this. So we have to read only, right? Make the array read only and the hero read only, and that prevents us from making all of these changes, but not really. Hey, Abradores, good to see you, man. So the fact that you can still mutate without a whole bunch of TypeScript stuff there is the reason that I tend to prefer the generators, because if we turn this into a generator, well, the first thing we can do with a generator is we can get rid of all of that, right? We can just say function mock heroes returns a heroes array, and then we get that and that, and then we return right? And this is ugly because I haven't run prettier on it or anything like that. And I think we could run prettier if we wanted. Um, but now um, we can get our const heroes equals mock heroes, right? And this stuff doesn't matter. I can make all these changes and they don't matter because they're only scoped to the code where I make those changes. And as soon as somebody wants to get a new list of mock heroes, they're going to get the exact same list. And that's why I tend to prefer generators to even like const. That's one of the things that I really like to point out is that const doesn't freeze your objects quite the way you want it to. And yeah, there is a read-only array. Yeah, with immutable state, it's really amazing if you have many people in a team. From the NGRX toolkit, yeah, with immutable state is very, very powerful too. It's going to check for mutations and things like that. The thing that you want to be careful about, especially as your team grows, is you want to be careful of hidden side effects, things that you really weren't expecting. And so any tricks you can learn like this that is going to keep the hero array from mutating, any tricks that you can learn that's going to make data immutable. By the way, the V20 beta is coming very soon. Marco said that this morning. That's very cool. I need to reach out to Marco. I haven't talked to him in a long time. Marco's a great guy. Let's turn this off. Actually, we can just, we'll leave it off for now on our tour of heroes. But that's the reason that I tend to go factory over just exporting variables. A lot of things like, what do we want to call it? Like const. Const doesn't make your object immutable. It makes primitives immutable, right? You can't change the const integer, but a const object, you can mutate the properties on that object. You can do all sorts of stuff with that object. So it's not guaranteed to be a read-only object, right? You have to use something like freeze or things like that. Why have your team grow when arbiters can do all the work? My boss. Oh man, that's harsh, dude. That's really harsh, dude. It's the reality of business. If we can get one guy to do the work of 10, then we're paying a 90% discount for that work, right? And so they're always going to view you that way out of the work. It sucks. I shouldn't be laughing about it, to be honest. It's actually a horrible situation. But it is kind of the way things go, right? So to display the heroes, they want us to get the heroes into a property on the heroes component. I disagree with this. I like to separate my state from my components. One subtle thing I like about signals is you can still mutate them, but it's a lot harder and more intentional to do signals, yeah, rather than consts. Signals are a little bit harder to mutate. Saturday I was supposed to work on a module, but I ended up working that day, doing the job. Dude, I mean, I laugh because it's such a ridiculous task. I work Saturdays too. See, that's crazy, and that's the reality of the market right now. I'm not going to give you advice like, hey, quit your job. Hey, go look for a new job. Like a year ago or 2 years ago, that would have been good advice. In today's market, and most of these companies know this, it's a very long and difficult process to find a new job. And so the best advice I can give you right now is just work on those skills that make you valuable. Do what you need to do to keep your job and maintain a job. But if an opportunity comes up, take that opportunity immediately, right? And do whatever you can to make those opportunities come up. Attend meetups, network with others. Get yourself out there. Maybe start creating content. Right, write blogs, talk at conferences, talk at meetups, pick up streaming. Things like that make you more marketable and let people see how you are as a person and a developer and things like that. But yeah, well, and the problem that you'll run into, especially like managers make mistakes, but managers are able to cover up their mistakes easier than you are, right? So your mistakes are often very, very visible. Management mistakes are often, you know, they're often spread out over the group that person manages, so it's much more difficult to see those mistakes. And they find those people who can clean up their mistakes too. Um, so right now in this economy, take care of yourself first, right? And I think that's good advice in general. If you don't feel like you're being treated fairly or things like that, always take care of yourself first. Um, that's what the company's going to do. That's what the layoffs are right now. That's companies taking care of themselves first. Um, right? Don't don't buy into the talk of loyalty and things like that. Um, loyalty loyalty used to mean something. Anymore, loyalty is just the way the company's never going to be loyal to you. They're always going to do what's in their best interest. They're always going to do, what's in the stockholders' best interest, and morally, that's what they're supposed to be doing. Um, so yeah, the worst feeling if you're a team leader and your team doesn't do anything aside from Abrolores and he suddenly leaves, then you're screwed. And that's true. That's very true. Um, they'll recover. I mean, teams recover. Companies are resilient. Um, as a team leader, there are things that you can do as a team leader to encourage your team to prepare, right, and to do more. Calling them out in stand-ups. You know, asking for very visible follow-ups. Um, and it doesn't have to be malicious or mean, right? As a team leader, if you've got an underperforming team member, it's well within your rights to just be like, send out in the main company or in the main team chat, not the company chat. That'd be horrible and mean. But like in the team chat, just send out, hey Jason, you said that you would be done with this today. Where are you? Right? And they're like, oh, I'm blocked. It's like, hey, can I get so and so to help you unblock, or can I help you unblock, or things like that, right? And holding people accountable for what they've agreed to do and things like that. That's your job as a team lead. It's probably one of the most difficult jobs to do because nobody wants to be that guy, right? Nobody ever wants to be a debt collector. Nobody wants to be the guy that's always like, "Hey, where are you? Hey, where are you?" Right? Um, but if your team isn't performing, that's the person you've got to turn into. Um, yes, this happens constantly. My team leader asks about features some people say today, and then it's not done today, and that's right. So then the next follow up step that the team leader needs to be doing is, hey, you said it would be done today. What happened? Why wasn't it done today? Right? And there may be legitimate reasons. You never need to go into this stuff confrontationally. Allow people to explain themselves, but also one of the things that you can do to lose top talent fastest is, and you're seeing this right now, Aurelius, where you're just not happy with what's going on. top talent wants results, right? If you're not if your team isn't getting results, your top talent is going to feel like, well, why do I want to spend my time here, right? Top talent is never going to settle in and be like, I'm just going to do the bare minimum unless you burn them out really, really bad. Top talent is going to be like, I want to be working with people that are on my same level and have my same drive. So if your team isn't producing, your top talent is going to get demoralized. But because they're talented, they're going to find ways to get off of your team, and your team is going to suffer, just like what Abradores is saying, right? They're going to suddenly be like, well, wait, stuff's not getting done. Who did all the stuff? And it's going to be like, well, the guy who left, right? So um, that when you get into leadership roles, it's in the team's best interest for you to encourage the team to produce. Um, it, and hold people to the deadlines that they say they're going to have, right? If they can't meet those deadlines, then it's time to have a discussion about, okay, what's holding you back, what's a more realistic deadline, and in the future, how can we be more realistic about our deadlines? um, and it's not to hurt people, but it's to help people understand and get better themselves, right? A lot of people may not realize that they need to improve. It often takes somebody outside of what you're doing for you to recognize that you need to improve. It happens to me all the time. So yeah. What about, I write to a guy and this guy doesn't respond, um, but he sees my message. There are just some people who are honestly there to see how long they can go collecting a check before something happens, right? um, that's the reality. It's everywhere. It's not just your company, it's everybody's company. My team's issue is not the other people not working, it's that if I ever leave, this will go south very fast. I'm responsible for 5 out of 6 modules, and other 3 people are responsible for one. And that's a huge imbalance. um, that shows. So to me, uh, like if I was in leadership at your company, and I saw Abradores is in charge of 5 out of the 6 modules, and the rest of the team is in charge of one, that shows me that Abradores has leadership potential, and we're going to start fast tracking him into team lead or stuff like that, and start coaching him on how do you share the workload and things like that. That's one of the biggest failures in general, with the way we promote people in tech. We don't teach those skills, and this has bitten me over and over in my career because I show a certain level of competency. I get promoted. And once I'm promoted, I don't know the skills that I need at that level, but I'm not being coached on those skills either, right? And it leads to some very, very difficult times where I feel like I'm rushing around. I don't know what's going on. And people are expecting certain things out of me, and I don't know what to do, right? It happens over and over and over as you get promoted in your career. Um, and that's a big failure, I think, uh, with tech leadership, because we should be, when we identify somebody who can be a leader, who's willing to take on the responsibility, we need to be also coaching them on, hey, when you're in charge of stuff, this is how you do it. When you lead people, this is what you need to be doing. Teaching those leadership skills along with the technical skills, so that we can get better leadership in tech. um, so yeah, on Saturday I did the other module that other 3 people were working on, and I wrote my boss, I feel ashamed doing this. 3 people worked on this, and they opened 56 books. There aren't even 56 things to do. Oh, I feel you, Matt. I feel you. Anyway, let's get back to some code, right? So one of the things I wanted to point out, and this is something that I pointed out to the Angular team, um, we're mixing we're mixing logic and state into our component. The better place to put this is not here in the heroes component. The better place to put this is in some state management service or something like that. And again, this isn't for super simple. Like Tour of Heroes is very, very simple, and it's to help new people learn Angular, right? We don't want to introduce a whole bunch of concepts like services and things like that when really what we want to do is teach the for loop in a template, right? So there's a good reason why they did it this way, and it's to help people learn. This is not the way you should do it once you get into bigger applications and applications that you want to maintain. Don't put state directly on your components. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. So let's go back to our store. And right now, our heroes view, we've got this create heroes view, which is coming from our view model. And our heroes view has a hero on it that we're just calling the create hero, right? We no longer want this. Instead, we want to take a look, and this is why we can't just do this little by little. We need our heroes view to accept. Our heroes view needs to accept an array of heroes now, which is going to break things. They're going to bring in ng4. We don't use ng4 anymore, right? We use the for flow control, the flow control operator. So we'll be doing that, but and we'll be using let here to make it easy for us too. Well, we don't need to with the for. We can just grab it off the hero. But we need to update our view. So our create heroes view, well, the first thing we need to do is our state. Actually, our state is fine because it's going to come from our heroes view. Our heroes view is now going to mutate to be heroes, which is going to be a hero array. And our create heroes view, so for right now, we're just gonna pull this out. Do we want to pull this out? We can say heroes equals option dot heroes, right? So it doesn't like this. The hero type hero is missing the following properties from hero length, blah blah blah. Oh, create hero. You're right. We don't want create hero. Now we're just gonna pass our heroes through. And the other thing we can do is if they don't pass something in, we're just going to go with an empty array. So now in our hero store, this no longer works, but instead of doing this, we can now do mock heroes, right? And so that works. Mock heroes. Oh, we also need to push this in the options. So it's now heroes is of type mock heroes, and that's going to work. We've broken our reducer. I think we're going to get rid of the reducer. I don't know that we want to introduce effects right now. We'll have to take a look at this later. For right now, we're going to comment out our reducer, and we'll look at bringing it back in a bit. There we go. We've got our state. We Why was my reducer inside? What did I do? Because I'm not sure I like what I'm seeing right now. So let's go take a look at our store. I guess our with state was there. I think what happened is, let's go ahead and comment this out. And what I need to do is just add one more paren here. And that's going to make my reducer better. So now we've just got the create heroes view from our state. And that's going to be it's going to be not a reducer, but it's going to be an array. So the heroes model now returns mock heroes. One thing I do want to make sure we get back is, let's make sure that we get Mr. Nice. I love that. We want Windstorm to be in there, right? Windstorm's been there forever. Windstorm has been there since the beginning. We want Windstorm back. So we're gonna add Windstorm back. Our heroes view model does that, but now our app component, nope, it is in our heroes view. So we've got an issue here where our heroes view is messed up. And inside of here, what they're doing is they're using a 4, right? So it's now changed to my heroes, and they're using an unordered list and then list items. So let's get this to work, and then we'll continue on. So the first thing we want to do is, we've got our card body. They've got a card title. They changed this to be my heroes. Let's do the same. My heroes. We're gonna pull that out, and then the next thing they do inside of their code is we just get an unordered list, and each list item is inside of an ng4, right? So we'll do the same. We're gonna have to style this. So actually, let's go ahead and do the same. So we'll get an unordered list here. And they're using the heroes class on this. We'll do something with it too to get a similar look. We need our 4. So we're going to say, at this point, we're going to say at 4, we're going to say let hero of, and this is where we want to grab it from the hero store. So hero store dot heroes. We're going to track by hero ID. And I think I don't need the let here, right? Yeah. So for hero of hero stores dot heroes, and at this point we can just go grab the list items. And so we'll do that. And so there's our list items. And let's take a look at what we get versus what they expect, right? So down here, this is how it's supposed to look. What we get, if we run it, which ours should be running right now, ours doesn't look anywhere near the same. So we're going to clean this up a bit. So let's first go take a look at Daisy UI. And inside of Daisy, let's take a look at list elements. So we don't have list elements in here. Let's just see if we search for list. Yeah. So let's go take a look at Tailwind. Let's search for list. So list none. What do we have on ours? We go take a look at ours. It doesn't look like we've got anything there. Oof. So our list items don't have anything on them. But let's make our list items look a little bit better. Let's make them follow this convention here, where we've basically got our button, and then up against that button is the input, and the button is the same size. So let's take a look at what it takes to get. Well, first let's take a look at the hero styles. So we're inside of a button already. Are we inside of a button? If we inspect this, yes, this is a button. So one of the first things we can do is we can go to Daisy and we can take a look at our button and see what kind of buttons we want. So this is like the default button. So we could go with an input type equals radio for our stuff. And add a class of button to it and see what happens there. But for right now, we're just going to go class equals button and see what we get. So if we go back and we take a look at our stuff, we've got buttons, but we which is not bad. But we want a similar look and feel to what we've got um, here, where the number takes up the beginning and then the rest. So the first thing we can do is probably put a width on our buttons to make sure that our buttons are the same width. So let's go with like a width of let's go. I don't want to go full. Let's go. I like this. This is amazing. Um, the fact that it tells me what the calculation is for these buttons based on, man, this is amazing. Let's go with like a width 20 and see what that does for us. So width 20. So if we go take a look here, it's way too small. So you know what? Let's so like a width 60. Let's see what that does for us. That's much better. So the next thing we want to do is do like let's do a display flex. So we can do that here with a flex. And it's using spans now, but if we inspect this, so here's our button, and our button is display flex. We can see the flex on it. Because we have spans, it's not going to make our text respect the flex, right? So we can instead make these divs. So there we go. And now it should start to line things up. No, it won't. If we take a look at we take a look at the flex on this, right? Our divs are, we can see where things line up, and they're not lining up how we would like them to. This badge has a weird, like, I'm curious about so we've got this flex. We can go I need to take a look at the flex stuff for Tailwind. So here we've got width 14, flex none, flex 1, flex 1. So flex initial, we don't want that. Flex auto. Because what we want is we want that first one to be an exact amount. So, can you do picture and ask AI to do that? Probably. Click the box on the flex prop. Okay, let's do that. Box on the flex prop. You're saying this one? Oh, there. There's there's some flex layout going on with the badge. We'll fix the badge up here in a bit. What I want is I think I can go here and I can go it can have, well, class of name doesn't mean anything, but I think I can go flex grow here. And that should, yeah. So now if we look at the flex on, say we inspect this one, and we look at the flex here, we can see that we've got our flex. What's weird is that that badge is just so out of where it should be. Windstorm, like it's centering all of this, which is whatever. I'm curious why. So we've got flex grow. If we take that off, everything goes there. I'm curious here. So if I've got flex, take out display flex. See, what I'm really curious about is what has, like, why we can see everything's, we're centered within that button, but we're moved over. Um, he sent a pic on LinkedIn. Tag link. Oh, no, in Chrome, there is a little box under filter styles area. Individual CSS properties that you can toggle on and off. Oh, you're talking about here. No, that's not the one. Filter styles. Hey, Marcus. Let me take a look at LinkedIn really quick. Oh. Okay. I see what you're saying. So you're saying on this flex right here. Can I not click that button? I'm curious here, if I take badge off, it's so weird that I can't. You can see things are here. I'm really curious about. So we've got a basis and then a final. Is this flex display here? This is the one that Michael's talking about. Yeah, it only highlights it. It's not like I can't mess with the flex, like any of the flex basis or anything like that. And like if I, let's take the badge off the number for right now. We'll put it back here in a bit. But here, let's just say, what does flex shrink to 0 do for me? So now if we take a look at the flex here, it's like this button's flex. It's still, that's fascinating. So there has to be something that's being applied to the UL. So that's what's taking off that. So for each LI, this button has, we've got the pros stuff, we've got the width, we've got our display flex, which is toggling this, right? Justify content center. Why is it? Oh, it had the display inline flex. Take the gap off. So I like the align items. We'll probably take the justify content center off. Next align. We don't want the text to be center aligned. Padding inline, that's fine. Color, that's fine. Height, font size, font weight, outline. It's all the transitions, border starts. So it's doing all the radiuses. So here we're going to add, on top of this, we're going to add a gap of 0. And that should make our gap inspect. See, the crazy thing is that this is way off to the side. It's not being contained by the button. But somehow the text is being moved. Like if we take a look at this one, see, I'm not sure what's going on here with the layout. Actually, there's padding, but we're overriding. Hmm. Let's clean this up just a little bit more. Instead of doing list items, let's take a button and we will let's go with a break after each button. There we go. So now my flex makes, no, it doesn't. Can I do, I don't want flex shrink. Let's just go with a flex 1-ish. Let's flex 1 and see. Can I go with like a flex 12 pixel here? Does that work? So it's ignoring my 12 pixels. This is not 12 pixels. This is 73 pixels. Let's go take a look at our flex stuff in so it might be parentheses that I need here. I always forget. So let's see, flex 12 pixels. And see if that works. $5.65, great. This one is 13. So it's not recognizing What does flex 12 in parentheses do for me? Nothing. And so it's shrinking that down to just the bare minimum and allowing the other to grow. Um which means that I can just do width um that makes total sense. I'm being an idiot here just because I'm like, oh yeah, it's flex. I need to I can just go here. I can go okay width and using a percentage, matching the viewport. The width 24. So if I do like a width 2 here, and I inspect, and so width 2 is 8 pixels. And it's not big enough for everything else because if we look at this one, right, we're overflowing our stuff. So we probably want to go, let's try like a width 8. That'll give us hopefully something nice. So width 8 is not bad. That's going to be enough for our numbers. I don't understand why we're getting this offset. We'll have to take a look at the offset. But width 8 holds our numbers nicely. Assuming they're only 2-digit numbers, right? Maybe we just do like a what do we want? We want like maybe I don't know. I don't want to mess with it too much. Um, but let's do text left. Or we can do a text right. And here we can do a text left to get things to look similar to how they did. And now we're right up against each other, which we don't want. You know what? I'm going to use a gap here. Instead of a gap of 0, we're going to use a gap of 2 and see what that gives us. So that's nice. What I'm really curious about is if we inspect this button, we've got this gap on it. We've got this, it's either a margin or We've got that. We've got that. Do we have like a padding or a margin? Margin. It's not a margin. Let's look at a padding on this. Button has padding. There we go. So by taking off the inline padding, things are lining up how we want them to. And now we're getting these, our numbers. To line up nicely. We could probably go down to like a width of 6 here now. Like a width of 6 should now clean this up a bit. If we inspect, let's take our padding inline, padding inline 0. That should fix that, right? Inspect. We take a look at this. No, we've still got a padding inline. How do I? Because if we take that padding inline off, we're getting closer to where we want to be. So we've got that, but let's say we take a look at this button. We can see our flex stuff here. How do we take off padding inline? So instead of padding inline, it's ES0. Is that what I want? That is what I want. Because that sets my inline start there. Even if I turn that off, yeah, now we've got nothing going on. So there we go. So that sets my padding inline start, giving us a decent looking button. The next thing that would be nice is to get this div. So if we set this one back to being a badge class, what does that do for us? Let's go take a look at Daisy and see what Daisy's badge classes give us. So here we go, badge. Boom. We've got that. Really, we probably don't even need the badge. Probably would just be fine with the height 100. And then we could go with color primary or background primary, BG primary. So we're getting closer. So we've got a BG primary. We can also go with a text primary. That's going to give us that. Text content primary. Or is it primary content? Yeah, that's what we want. There we go. And then we can also go here, go with the padding end of, we just want like 2 pixels here. I think. Because we just want to pull that number just off the edge. So that works. But we need some negative margins here. So I think we can go MTB and what I'm curious about is if we take a look at this and we inspect this, so this button has so does this div have a margin on it? There's a margin. No. So why, like if we take a look at this flex model here, not the one we want, this one. We aren't taking the full height for our div, even though we've told our div to be 100 height. Oh, you know what? It's h100, not height 100. Let's try that. H100. Oh, maybe. Maybe, well, this, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, what did I do? Height 100 winds up being 400 pixels high. Because my flex is not containing that div. Oh, it's because it's not a 100%. It's height full. That's my issue. There we go. There we go. The problem is if we inspect this, like our button, now our div is square on this end. Flex, item center, justify center. Not justify center, just item center. That should justify right. Means we can take out the text right. Oh. You know what? Is that not? I always get this one messed up. The CSS pane is real. Yeah, H full, you're right, Johanderson. CSS pane is always real. I wish I could get this um, to round on the end, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. What I don't like is we're right up against the. Let's see. Let's go take a look again here. And let's take a look at place items. Place items start, end. Place items center, place items stretch. Don't want any of that. So where's my flex stuff? There's place items. I think it's align items, right? No, it's Justify end. That's what we want. Does that one do it? Yes. There we go. So now we've got our list looking okay. However, we aren't selecting an item. So that's going to be the next piece that we want to do, right? I think based on the Tour of Heroes. So styling the heroes, you should have used the styles.css. We've struggled our way through it. We've got our 4. We went away from the if stuff. So we need to add a click event handler that's going to select our current hero. So to our button right now, what we can do is we can just do click equals, and here we're going to select hero, and our selected hero is going to be well, we can just use hero.id. So down inside of here, ladder protected function, protected, select hero, and the ID is going to be a number. Boom. And what we can do for right now, we're just going to console.log hero selected, and we'll log the ID. So for right now, we'll go back and we'll bring up our console, and here well, what's going on? So this should be logging hero selected 1. So what do we have going on here? We've got our click. So we do have our select hero on our click. Our click event is here on our button. I've saved it. Let's just see. Let's just see if I rerun everything. Does that solve our issue? Because a click event is on the button. So we built everything. There we go. So I'm not sure why it wasn't happening until we restarted the build, but we can see that now we're getting the hero selected. So now we can get a hero selected event, which is good. So let's see what they want us to do with a hero selected event. So we got the click event. And again, they're putting the selected hero on the component. I don't recommend we do this. We're going to add it to the view. Add a details section. So we'll go ahead and add that details section also. And it only shows up if there is a selected hero. So we're going to do that in our state. So in the heroes view model, we need a selected hero. And that's fine. So initially we won't have a selected hero. And then eventually we will. So in the hero store, we also need a method that will set the selected hero. Why do we still have event group? Because we're using it here. No, I'm going to take a lot of this stuff out. Well, we'll leave it for now. But we're going to add a method here. We're going to say with method. Let's bring that in. Hello? And so we want our state, and we're going to return an object that has methods on it that we want. This one, we want to select hero method. And it will be an ID with a number on it. And we're not going to use the we're not going to use reducers or actions or anything like that. We're just going to call select hero straight on our signal store. So here we're going to just say, hey, state, or we need to patch state, right? Patch state. And we're going to go with the state. And we're going to return. We need create state in here. We need to import patch state. And then here we can I think we can just return selected hero of ID. You know what? We can even, that's fine. Oh, I made the selected hero on the hero view model a hero. We actually want this to be a number. It's going to represent the selected hero's ID because we're going to compute the hero from here. So for the last thing we need to do is add our computed. It's going to represent the selected hero. So we will have with computed, and we'll bring that in from NGRX signals. And we're going to need our state. And we're going to have some computed objects here. Does computed not work the way? One thing we can do here is make this selected hero ID, which means we need to update stuff here, selected hero ID. And with computed, doesn't computed take a state? Oh, but it's not a comma. It's a function. There we go. And so we can now do selected hero, which is a computed. Which will bring in from Angular Core. And it is going to return we're going to go state dot heroes find we'll give it a -1 there. Why doesn't it like this? Which means I may not need the -1. And so now with this in place, we can go back to our view. And what we can do is we'll just add this right here. We'll do pre, and here we can go with hero store dot selected hero. And we can run this through a JSON pipe. Maybe. I think the JSON pipe is in the common modules. We'll see if it doesn't work. So if we come back here and we hit Windstorm, yeah, we don't have. Let's bring up our console. Refresh. It doesn't care. What is my build not working? Try again. Oh, I actually need to end here soon. So let's see if I hit Windstorm. Oh, I always do this. I always do this. This dot hero store dot select hero ID. Um, I really don't need this dispatcher anymore. I'm not going to run. So now let's see what happens. So if I hit tornado here, oh come on. I should see inside of the card at the very bottom. Here's my pre-tag, but I'm getting nothing inside of that pre-tag. Did I do something wrong with the pre-tag? Let's try the selected hero ID because we know um, oh, I know what the problem is. I know what the problem is. This is an issue with so we know that part's working. The problem we have here um, is this computed is relying on something. So we have to make this a function. And we have to say const selected ID equals state dot selected hero ID. Now we can return this. And that should fix it. The problem is that when it was initially evaluating this find, this was undefined, and so it wasn't linking it. We still may have that issue. Yeah. So we've still got the issue where, and this is a problem with, so we can go about this the other way. Because it's a deep, nope, that's not it. So we've got this issue where our selected hero ID can be null or undefined. It's optional. Instead, what we have to do is we have to go number or undefined here, and then here we can now have, yeah, that will work. And that should solve this issue. And that's one of the problems with the signal is because the original time through, when it sets up this computed and it sets up everything, it's like, oh, this is undefined, so I don't even have to watch this anymore. And that's the problem that was going on inside of our code. What I really should do is, and now we can see that, hey, our stuff's working how we would expect it to work. So our biggest issue right now was Well, our biggest issue was, and this is something to be aware of when you're using computed or effects or anything like that, is that using an optional signal can make it so that this doesn't happen if the first time through it's undefined. It just never sets up the subscription. And we could have seen this in Chrome, in the Chrome Dev Tools, because the Chrome Dev Tools allows you to trace signals right now. Um, and maybe we'll dig into that next time. Um, what I would like to do, basically, um, I want to set up side by side. Um, so let's set our card body here to be flex. And then we'll add a div around this. And then we will add a div around this. So there we go. So we want our flex direction. So if we look at our card right now, inspect. So our flex direction is column. We want our flex direction to be row. And I think we can just set that up with a flex dash row. We may need the flex. I think flex row has flex on it. But let's just see. Yeah. So now if we set up, right, so now when we select things, we can see them to the side. One thing I would like to do is set a max height on the heroes themselves. So they'll, like a max height on the card. So that we could get scrolling on this div here. So we've got this card here. So on our card body, let's do max height of, what is max height of screen? That's cool. We'll try screen, see what happens. So if we come back here, that's not bad, but let's go with the max height of 5/6. See what that gives us. That's too big. Let's go with a max height of so 5/6. Let's go. Does it have a 3/4? See what that does. So let's try 3 divided by 4. Let's try like 1 divided by 4. What does that give us? Is that going to give us, like, it's not. What if I do overflow none? Overflow hidden. It's not, that's the weird thing, is that my div here is 830. Because we saw max height screen did stuff. Let's go back and look at. These are working. Like the max height here is working. I don't know. Is it a Daisy thing? Let's see if we got max height in Daisy. No, because it is. It's probably because I don't have a max height here. Max height. And let's go with screen here. Is that right? Does that solve my issues? It does. There we go. So yeah, M4th of what exactly? So the other thing we want to do is on this div right here. We want a class of overflow auto. And that should, no. We want an overflow of scroll, right? Overflow Y scroll. Oh, we aren't overflowing because max height, and we want the same thing here. Class equals max height full. And that should not do what we want. I may have to go with the grid layout here to get what I'm trying to do. Probably be cleaner too. We'll pick that up next time. Wait, was it not? So if I change this to max height, like if I take this off, well, actually, let's just verify. I think I had something selected. So let's go ahead and just rebuild. Because for whatever reason, it's not rebuilding properly. So let's see here. Expect to see, no. Do I still have it set to overflow? Max height full, overflow Y scroll. I don't know, I'll have to figure it out. The LIs itself must be max heighted. Probably. I'm probably just better off going with a grid instead of trying to do a bunch of nested flex layouts. So next time around, we're going to lay out the entire thing in a grid. Yeah, that'll be the better way to do it. The grid is going to be, well, no, that doesn't make sense. This should have a max height. And this has a max height. I don't know. I need to dig into it deeper. I don't have time to do that right now. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We actually got a lot more code written today. A lot of CSS stuff using Tailwind, right? A lot of Tailwind stuff. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys, everyone, for your input and for your questions. Next time around, we'll get our layouts figured out, get everything looking decent with our layouts, and then keep moving forward. Check the origin of the actual height in the inspector. Maybe it is overridden. I agree with you there. I'm not sure what's causing our height, right? So if we inspect our height here, so this height, overflow Y of scroll, if we turn that off, oh. Wait, why? If we turn these off, we shouldn't have overflow. Oh, did I take the overflow hidden off? I'm not seeing the overflow hidden here. That's probably my problem. Overflow hidden. There we go. That was my problem. right? We're still off a little bit because of the top here. So we could calculate a nicer max height. Maybe 3/4 is too much. So if we go to like 5/8, 5/8 is still a little too much. So we're slightly below half. If we go to like where we're slightly over half, if we go to like 7/12, that's an interesting number, but no. If we go to 1/2, well, what if we do 1/4? What does 1/4 look like? That's so my overflow, it's still the screen height, right? Um, so this is the problem here. Me changing things here doesn't do anything. So if I make my card max height, what if I make my max height here 3/4, like 3/4? Does that change anything? No. It's because it doesn't know what 3/4 of what, right? So we're probably going to have to use like a variable here. So if we go into we could add our styles here, styles. And our styles can be, we can just say, hey, card height is calc, and we can say 100 VH minus like 4 rem. Is that not? Oh, I need like host here, right? Yeah. So within the context here, and then here I can say that now my max is card height. So I can use that variable. And now, did that work? If we inspect this, oh, I need max height. Max dash H. There we go. now if we refresh, there we go. So we're close. We're over by just a little bit. So if we go inspect this, we can see where's my max height? Layer utilities card. We can search for height here, right? And card height. Oh, can we not get into card height? Wanted to edit card heights. That's okay. We can do it here. So card height. So for rem, let's do like 8 rem. We'll double it. So now we can see, hey, we've got decent here, and then if we pull up our F12, right, we're off the bottom. We could probably do 6, but we can at least see that, hey, we've got our scroll stuff here on the side, and that's cool. I think I'm gonna leave it here. The parent should be screen height. The title should be content height. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Johanderson. I'm working around the fact that I'm trying to make this work with something that's outside of its own layout. What really should happen is that there should be a flex layout here that defines this plus this, and then this can be, you know, growing and shrinking, and then all of this stuff will work. And we'll work through that here. Because flex heights should work. But yeah, at this point, we're in an okay spot. I want to get the selected stuff working instead, and move forward from there. But I think we're in a good place. I definitely need to stop now. I heard my wife getting ready for something that we're